I remember it like yesterday, the day I first tasted that cheese stick. It was a chilly autumn evening, the kind where the wind whispers secrets through the trees. I was just a young lad, barely out of my boyhood, when I stumbled upon the old abandoned farmhouse. The place was shrouded in mystery, its windows like eyes watching my every move. I felt a strange pull, an unseen force beckoning me to step inside. And so, with a mix of fear and curiosity, I pushed open the creaking door. Inside, dust danced in the shafts of moonlight that pierced the gloom. The floorboards groaned under my weight as if protesting my intrusion. But it was the kitchen that really drew me, a room of shadows and secrets. There, on a cracked wooden table, lay a single cheese stick wrapped in a thin layer of plastic. It was an odd sight in this desolate place, but something compelled me to pick it up. The plastic was cold to the touch, and as I unwrapped it, the cheese stick seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, but then, driven by an inexplicable hunger, I took a bite. The cheese turned out to be sharp and tangy, with a flavor that was both familiar and strange. It filled my mouth, and as I swallowed, I felt a chill run down my spine. That's when the whisper started. Soft at first, like the rustling of leaves, but growing louder with each passing moment. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew they were meant for me. They spoke of things that had happened in this house, of secrets buried deep within its walls. I tried to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The whispers grew louder, filling my head until I thought it would burst. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The whispers faded, and the room fell silent once more. I stood there, trembling, the cheese stick still clutched in my hand. I knew that I had tasted something more than just cheese. I had tasted the past, as strange as that sounds, the memories of the old farmhouse, and I knew that I would never forget that day, the day I first tasted that cheese stick. I'll start by saying that, for the longest time, I didn't think this memory was real. Like it was just a dream, or I had imagined it at some point. But while going through some old belongings recently, I came across a faded photograph that seems to confirm that this did indeed happen. It's hard to describe exactly what I felt when I found the picture. My mom used to work at a cheese stick factory when I was a kid, and I would sometimes visit her there. Those were some of the best childhood memories I have. She passed away several years ago, and maybe it's because I just found out this was a real memory with her that inspired me to share this story. Based on what I remember of this memory and the photograph I found, I'm like 99% sure this took place while I was visiting her at the cheese stick factory one day. For context, my mom worked long hours at the factory, and she would take me with her on days when she couldn't find a babysitter. I would usually wait for her in the break room while she worked. One time we must have visited the factory on a particularly foggy day. I remember there was a thick mist that seemed to envelop everything, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. My mom and I walked through the mist, hand in hand, until we reached the factory. The building loomed ominously in the fog, its tall smokestacks spewing out clouds of steam. We entered the factory and made our way to the break room. I remember sitting on a cold metal chair, reading a book while my mom went to work. The room was dimly lit, with a flickering fluorescent light overhead. The walls were a dull gray color, and there was a strange, musty smell in the air. After a while, I got bored of reading and decided to explore the factory. I wandered down a long, dimly lit hallway, my footsteps echoing loudly on the concrete floor. I passed by rows of machines, their gears grinding loudly as they churned out cheese sticks. The air was thick with the smell of cheese, and I could feel the heat from the machines on my skin. As I turned a corner, I came across a room that seemed different from the rest. It was brightly lit, with a large window overlooking the factory floor. Inside, I could see a group of people gathered around a table, talking in hushed tones. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but there was something about their demeanor that made me feel uneasy. I was about to turn away when I noticed something strange. One of the people at the table was wearing a mask, and it looked like they were performing some kind of ritual. I honestly couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Just then, I heard footsteps approaching from behind me. I turned around to see my mom standing there, a worried look on her face. She quickly ushered me back to the break room, telling me to stay put and not to wander off again. After this happened, I never told my mom about what I saw that day, and I guess for years I tried to just convince myself that it was a dream. But now that I know it probably wasn't, that just makes it all the more disturbing. I remember the night vividly. It was a cold, dark winter evening, and I was home alone. I had just finished watching a horror movie, and my nerves were already on edge. I decided to make myself a snack to calm my nerves. I opened the fridge and found a single cheese stick left. I grabbed it and went back to the couch. However, as I unwrapped the cheese stick, I noticed something strange. The wrapper seemed to have some sort of writing on it, but it was too small to read. I shrugged it off and took a bite. It tasted normal, but the texture was off somehow. It almost felt like it was squirming in my mouth. I spat it out immediately, and to my horror, I saw tiny insects crawling out of the cheese stick. I screamed and threw the cheese stick across the room. I ran to the bathroom and rinsed my mouth out, trying to get rid of the taste. I looked in the mirror and saw that my eyes were bloodshot and my skin was pale. I felt like something else was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it at that exact moment. I went back to the living room and saw that the cheese stick was gone. I searched that entire house, but there was no sign of it. I was starting to feel paranoid, like something was watching me. I tried to call a friend, but my phone wouldn't work. The power went out, and I was plunged into darkness. Then I heard a noise coming from the kitchen. I slowly made my way towards the sound, and I saw the cheese stick on the counter. It was moving, like it was alive. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. I was frozen in fear. The cheese stick started to grow, and it turned into a grotesque, monstrous creature. It had sharp teeth and claws, and it was coming towards me. I closed my eyes and screamed, but no one could hear me. I was alone, and the creature was getting closer. I knew that this was the end, and I could feel its hot breath on my face. I knew I was going to die. But then I woke up. It was all just a dream. I was safe in my bed, and the cheese stick was nowhere to be seen. I tried to convince myself that it was just a nightmare, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. I got up and went to the kitchen, and there it was. The cheese stick, sitting on the counter. I stared at it for the longest time, wondering if it was real or just another part of the nightmare. I never ate another cheese stick again.